So I just wanted to pop on here, answer some of the questions I got from my story the other day. I posted on Instagram asking about if anyone had any questions about hormones and things like that. So first question that I got was, how do I know if I have a hormone imbalance? So basically, sometimes you can't really tell, but sometimes it is underlying and you just don't know it for a really long time. So if you're like a competitor especially, you should just be getting regular blood work done as it is, especially natural competitors, as I have been. I never really knew this before until this year. And then I started wanting to get some blood work done and figure out what was going on with me, because I kind of started to not feel the greatest, which I'll kind of dive into a little bit here in a minute. But especially for competitors, if you've been going through a dieting phase or prepping for a long time, that would definitely be something I would get done afterwards. Probably not right away, just because you don't really need blood work right away, because everything's going to be tanked as it is, and you need to come out of that correctly. So I would say probably like 6-ish weeks after a prep is done. That way your body's had time to rest, kind of recuperate some of those things, and then see where you're at and see what else needs to be done. So then with getting blood work done, it usually isn't something you can just go to your doctor to and just ask them, be like, hey, can I get all these things tested that I need this, and this? Usually they won't do that. That's the experience that I've had too. If your doctor does, sweet, that's awesome. But in order to get a whole comprehensive look at what's going on underneath the surface, I would recommend things. You need to get a CBC, so a complete blood count, CMP, so a complete metabolic panel, all of your thyroid hormones, that would be TSH, T3, T4, and reverse T3, your testosterone, free testosterone, also your DHEA and estradiol levels, progesterone levels, let's see, your bun and creatinine will also be in there. You want to look at your liver pathways and your kidneys as well, to make sure that they're not being overworked. So those are some of the things that I would make sure to get tested. Also, if you don't know what you're reading, find a coach that does. That's what happened for me. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. I really wanted to get into it. So I went and found my coach, Jason Theobald, and he has helped me a lot with just my own progress, and also just learning what is going on and like why we need to do these things and what is going on underneath that needs to be fixed. So find a coach that knows what they're doing, because this stuff can be really intense and can get messed up very easily if you have a coach that doesn't know what they're doing. So that's my biggest thing I would recommend there. So next question, what are some of the things that I did to balance my hormones with diet and training and supplements as well? So I had 2 questions on that one, so I kind of just combined them. So after I went and got my lab work done, got my hormones tested and everything like that, we came back and my cortisol was sky high. My progesterone was tanked. That was mostly due to prolonged exercise, like over-exercising. I was doing like 6 days a week of training, and I thought it was totally fine and stuff. But my body wasn't recovering fast enough. So all of that leads to higher cortisol, which leads to lower progesterone, especially with being on birth control. And so my progesterone was tanked. I was very estrogen dominant. My kidneys were being overworked as a result of this. So in that sense, we started to just cut down the stress. So in order to do that, we cut training back. So I would cut training down to like 3 to 4 times a week, depending on the person. I've even heard sometimes people go as low as 2 days a week. So I got cut down from 6 days a week, from being in prep, to 3 days a week of training only. And then 1 day was yoga, and that's restorative yoga. So it's just breathing techniques, that kind of thing. Cardio was cut down from like intense fasted cardio every day, pretty much, because I was in prep, down to now I'm just at light intensity steady state for 4 days a week at 30 minutes fasted in the morning. So that's pretty much just a nice leisurely stroll pace. I don't go over 100 beats per minute. I usually read a book while I'm doing it, because what that does is that brings your body back into a parasympathetic mode. So it brings down that cortisol to help with your natural circadian rhythms. And then you're starting out your day a lot more relaxed, that kind of thing. So with training, that also is brought down to about an RPE of 7 or 75% of your like max or whatever. So you want to leave a few reps in the tank. You don't want to be training to failure or anything like that, because that is going to put your body, your CNS, into a sympathetic mode, increase cortisol. So in this phase, we're all about decreasing cortisol, making sure all that is good, so that way we can recover. It's also referred to as rest and digest. So with that, you want to make sure that you're getting enough recovery. You're not training too hard, but you're still training, getting stuff going, because it is good for you in doses, especially with being overtrained for so long. You don't want to overtrain yourself through this as well. For nutrition wise, basically what we did, since I was coming out of prep, I needed to reverse diet anyways. So we brought my calories up nice and slow each week, usually about 10 carbs a week, 10 grams on training and rest days. I have 2 different days that I work on. So I have a training day macros, and then I have rest day macros that I follow. And the rest day, of course, is a little bit less carbs. Otherwise, fats and proteins stay the same. My protein is set at about just above 1 pound per gram, or 1 gram per pound of body weight for me. My carbs are specifically timed around to be in the morning or around workouts, so that I can utilize them the best that I can. Fats are mostly monounsaturated fatty acids. So there's certain, so take a fish oil each day that has an EPA and DHA concentrate. So that helps with your omega-3 to omega-6 ratio. Most Americans have very high omega-6s versus omega-3s, where it should only be like a 2 to 1. Most people are at about, I've read somewhere as high as like a 20 to 1 ratio, and that's really bad. So we just want to make sure that we keep the monounsaturated fats going good, because the monounsaturated fats is going to help with producing cholesterol for proper hormone production. Unsaturated fats are also better for your blood and cardiovascular health, so things don't get clogged up in there. They also will help with inflammation, won't cause your body inflammation because it's harder to digest fats, as you can see. So then insulin sensitivity also can be a thing with high cortisol. Because you have high cortisol, your body's constantly pumping out insulin to kind of help with adding in glucose. So you can become insulin insensitive during this, also not during this, but beforehand. So you really want to try to help with your insulin sensitivity as well, which is something that you would get tested in your blood work too. Supplement wise, this is where it's going to vary person to person quite a bit, depending on what you're having going on with your hormones and stuff when you get your blood work back. My biggest issue was the cortisol, like I said, and then low progesterone due to the estrogen dominance for such a prolonged period. So I had probably been training 6 days a week for like the past 3 years. Didn't really take a rest day because I thought I could handle it. But this is what happens. So you get to learn how to fix it, which is great because now I'm learning how to fix it. I'm learning my own body. I'm learning how to help others with this because it's been a really big thing for me lately. So then the next question was signs of estrogen dominance and then the difference in types of IUDs. So estrogen dominance can come in various ways for many people, which is what can make it so confusing as to what is actually wrong and whatnot. So basically you'll have irritability, heavy periods, irregular periods, or missed periods even, decreased libido, weight gain for no reason, or trouble losing weight. So if you're going through a prep and having trouble losing weight, probably estrogen dominant. Or could be, I guess you could say. Your depression, anxiety is worsening, or you have extreme fatigue. Things like that with estrogen dominance. It's not necessarily only a high estrogen level. If you look at your estrogen to progesterone ratio, if that is too high, then you'll be in estrogen dominance. So my estrogen wasn't too high. It just was the fact that my progesterone was so low that my body is estrogen dominant, which I could go into that in another video. That's kind of a off-topic sort of thing, a whole explanation in itself. So because my estrogen was so high, my testosterone was actually really low. My DHEA was really low. So I was very estrogen dominant, which I'm still working on fixing right now. And then the types of IUDs, so there's hormonal and non-hormonal. There's all kinds of different other forms of birth control, but this question was specifically about IUDs. I'm not no expert or anything like that, but based on like things that I've read, the IUD is a little bit more helpful, it seems like, to some people, or a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? A little bit more attractive to some females. So there's two types of them. There's hormonal and non-hormonal. The non-hormonal birth control is going to be like your copper IUD. A lot of people have just been said that their period's a little bit heavier with this one. With this one, you also are going to want to make sure that you take a zinc supplement as well because of the copper. So your copper and zinc levels have to be leveled out. That sort of thing. And then the hormonal one secretes progestin, where your body normally secretes progesterone. So the progestin is a synthetic form of progesterone, which when your body keeps getting that over and over again, it creates a negative feedback loop. So then in your brain, in the pituitary, it'll tell your body like, oh, I'm already getting this hormone, so I don't need to make it anymore. So then when you go off of it or take it out, it can take quite a while to get your period back, or just to start ovulating again, because the brain is not registering that it needs to create progesterone. So that creates a negative feedback loop. For bodybuilding wise, benefits versus cons of this, you kind of have to weigh yourself. Basically, being on any form of birth control makes you estrogen dominant, unless it's the copper IUD. But that's kind of the choice that you have to make, is if you want to be on it, which is fine. But just know that you'll have higher estrogen levels usually. It'll be harder to gain muscle that way if you're a bodybuilder looking to gain strength, that kind of thing. Some females it works great, but it just kind of is your own personal decision. So that would be the wrap up of the questions that I received. If you have any more questions, always feel free to let me know. Again, I'm still learning a lot of this, so this is just a lot of things that I've learned. I'm no expert by any means. Just been taking lots of classes, reading a lot of books, listening to my own stuff and like how that's all going. So I just wanted to share what I've learned.